Hey guys, how's it going? Connor here today at etrailer.com. We're going to be taking a look at the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver here for our 2015 Infiniti Q50. So this is what our Curt Trailer Hitch looks installed. It's going to be an excellent option here for our Q50. It's going to allow us to tow a trailer if we want to go camping, or it's going to allow us to carry some bikes or some extra cargo if we need to free up space inside the vehicle or we want to go hit the trails. So this hitch has a Class 1 rating, which is going to provide us with a 1 1/4 inch receiver tube opening. Now the hitch has a 2,000 pound gross trailer weight rating, which is going to be how much we can pull on our fully loaded trailer. It also has a 200 pound tongue weight rating, which is going to be the downward force here on the receiver tube opening. Please keep in mind, although our trailer hitch does have a 2,000 pound gross trailer weight rating, we need to check with the vehicle's owner's manual to ensure A, that the vehicle can actually tow a trailer, and B, that the capacity exceeds that of the hitch. If it does not, we need to abide by the lower rated component. So in regards to appearances, I definitely like the Curt hitch for this vehicle. The cross tube is actually a little bit hidden behind the rear bumper here, so we're not going to see nearly as much of this from under the vehicle here. We also have a nice collar around our receiver tube opening, which is going to make for a nice, clean, sleek, finished install look. And Curt also does a really good job with their powder coating finish, so we don't have to worry about any rust issues. So on the side of our receiver tube here, we're going to have a 1/2 inch hitch pinhole. And the hitch pinhole is going to be used with our hitch pin and clip, which is sold separately. And these are going to help secure our ball mount or our hitch mounted accessories, such as a bike rack or cargo carrier. We also have a locking option available as well. Now below the receiver tube, we're going to have these nice welded on safety chain loops. What these are going to be used for are the safety chains on our trailer. As you can see, they're going to accept the Class S type hooks as well as the larger Clevis hooks. So in regards to installation, this is definitely something you're going to be able to do at home by yourself. We're not going to need any special tools, and we're not really going to have to do much cutting or drilling into the vehicle. We simply have to enlarge one of the already existing access holes. So now we have a couple measurements here for you that are going to help when you're selecting your hitch mounted accessories. The first one we have here is the distance from the ground to the top inside edge of our receiver tube opening. That's going to be right about 10 inches. Now the next measurement we have for you is the distance from the center of the hitch pinhole to the outermost edge of our bumper. And that's going to be about 5 inches. Now this measurement will be particularly useful when we're selecting our bike racks and cargo carriers that fold up against the vehicle. That way we can ensure there's no contact while they're in the stowed position. So now that we've gone over some of the benefits and features, let's jump right into installation and show you how easy this is to install yourself. So the first step of our installation here is going to vary depending on what our vehicle is equipped with. If we come to the passenger side of the frame here, you may or may not have this tie-down bracket here. So here's what our tie-down bracket is going to look like. Now if you don't have this, you can just go ahead and move on to the next step. However, if you do have this, this needs to come out. There's going to be 4 bolts in total holding this to the frame here. We have 2 on the inside, we have 2 on the outside. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and spray down these bolts first with some lubricant and let it sit in to help us when we're removing them. So now that we've allowed some time for our lubrication to sink into the threads here, it's going to make it a little bit easier to remove. We're going to come back with our 16mm socket. We're going to try to break all these free. So now that we have all our bolts broken loose, I'm going to come back with our impact here and just zip them out. Then we're going to set this aside because it won't be reused. So now we need to come under the vehicle here. What we're going to do next, we're going to identify the access hole that we're going to feed all of our hardware through. Now the access hole, we have it circled here in yellow just to help you guys at home. But it's going to be the second to rearmost hole on our frame here. We're going to be able to easily identify this because there's going to be an indentation around this hole. So what we need to do is we want to take one of our spacer blocks that come in our kit. We want to try to test fit it in this hole. So as you can see, it's not quite wide enough for us to slip our spacer block through there. So what we're going to have to do next is we're going to take a step drill bit. If you have a regular drill bit, you need a fairly large one. That's why we're going to use a step drill bit. What we're going to do is we're going to enlarge this hole We're going to drill a little bit, then we're going to check our spacer block. We're going to keep doing that until we have just enough to slip this through. Now we have plenty of room for our spacer block here. So the next step of our installation, we're going to need to lower our exhaust here so we can get our hitch up into position. However, before we do this, we're going to want to support our exhaust so it doesn't come down too far and damage any of the components. So what we're going to be using is, we're just going to have a strap here. If you're at home and you're working on the ground, you could easily just place a couple blocks of wood or maybe even a jack stand to support our exhaust here. But since we're in the air, we're going to be using a ratchet strap here. Just going to hook it to 2 points. You could obviously use this as well. And then we're going to pull it tight. As you can see here, we have support for exhaust. We break our exhaust hangers free. So in order to lower our exhaust, we're going to go ahead and just remove the bracket from the frame here. The best way to do this is, we're going to take some lubricant, similar to how we did with the tie-down bracket. We're going to spray each of these 3 bolts on both sides, let that sit for a little bit, and then we can come back with our wrench and socket and break them free. So now we're going to take a 12mm socket here. We're going to break all these bolts free. Don't forget, we have 3 more on the other side as well. So here on the inside of the frame rail, we're going to see our 2 holes which we're going to use for our hitch. We have one here, then one here. What we're going to do is, we're going to take our bolt leader which comes with the kit. We're going to place the coiled end through one of the 2 holes we're going to be using. I'm going to stick my finger up through the access hole, try to help guide the leader through, just like that. So we're going to first place a spacer block over the coiled end, and follow this up with one of our carriage bolts. Then we're going to place our spacer block through the frame here first, and then we can put our carriage bolt through. Now we're going to pull this through and fish it out our other hole here. So we want to go ahead and repeat this process on this other hole here, as well as the 2 holes on the other side of the vehicle. So before we raise our hitch back up into position, what we're going to do is, we're going to take a paint marker. If you have a can of spray paint, that'll work as well. We're going to go ahead and just cover that exposed metal here so we don't have any rust issues. Now that we have all of our bolts fished through the frame here, the next step is actually push them back in. However, we want to make sure that we still have our pull wire sticking out. Now the reason we need to do this is, we're going to be placing our hitch up into position, and it's going to fit in between the frame rails. So we can't have the bolt sticking through, or else we won't be able to lift it into place. Now with an extra set of hands, we can go ahead and set our trailer hitch up into position. Keep in mind, we want to hold it right below the exhaust first, because we're going to take our bolt leaders here, we're going to stick them through the respective holes. Once we do have our bolt leaders through, we can go ahead and set the hitch up into position. Then we're going to roughly align both of the holes in the frame with the hole in the hitch. Once that's done, we should be able to pull our bolt leaders through. So now that we have all of our bolts fished through, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go ahead and use one of my arms here to pull down on this hitch. So we're going to trap our bolt here against the trailer hitch. So when we pull the pull wire off, we don't have to worry about it jumping back through the frame. Once we do that, come back with our flange nut here and get that started. Now we can just repeat that process for our other 3 bolts. Now we're going to come back with our 18mm socket. We're just going to snug up all our hardware. Now we can come back with our torque wrench here and torque all of our hardware down to the specifications and our instructions. Now don't forget, we need to reattach our exhaust hanger brackets. Now with our exhaust back up, that's going to do it today for our look and installation of the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver here for our 2015 Infiniti Q50.